Hey everyone, this is Sean Poole, the editor and publisher of LettersToYou.net. I'm here today with film scholar Carolyn Madden, who's one of our contributing writers and the author of the great book Springsteen as Soundtrack, The Sound of the Boss in Film and Television. Hi, Carolyn.
Hello.
And we are both very excited today because we're getting to chat a bit with filmmaker Thom Zimny, who also is Bruce Springsteen's longtime film video collaborator and archivist, about the new film Road Diary, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, which will become available for streaming on Hulu and Disney Plus beginning on October 25th. Tom, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good to see you guys and connect once again.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get right to it. Carolyn and I have gotten to screen the film in advance, and spoiler alert, everyone, it's excellent. Uh, Bruce himself wrote and speaks the narrative provided for the film. Tom, how did the development of that narrative proceed? In other words, was it more like you went into post-production with much of the narrative already written and recorded, or did Bruce begin that process after you all had begun assembling, like, at least a rough cut of the film?
It's a great question. It's the voiceover is a tool and a filmic language that we've used from early on of really Western stars and Letter to You.
Hmm.
Uh, it's for me on this film, Road Diary, we're using it in a different way, which which is the voiceover was coming in after the conversations of other people talking. Bruce's voice is not intermixed with the band. And that really came about in the editing process. So Bruce started the voiceover really after I started assembling things. And one of my ways of communicating with him and John is to sometimes send sequences. And I'll have a title for that sequence. It might be fans listening to new music or something basic. I'm not
Hmm.
really telling him exactly the things I want written about or the themes to cover. I'm trying to show him that I see something in this footage. And what happens is I send it to him, it's a sketch, and then starts the process of him texting me voiceover. And he starts to text voiceover ideas. And then we get to a place that we have a complete voiceover, and I drop by the farm and he records it. Then the process happens is that I take some of my scenes and I put the voiceover against it. And I can tell you every single time after I get the voiceover, I start again because he's taken it to a whole other level and there's new ideas. So the power of the voiceover as a tool to tell stories is something that we've played with before, but it's very different in Road Diary now. It's almost like it's the voice of a friend at a tavern telling you, I know you heard this, this, and this, but this is also what I'm thinking about. The band itself is telling the story of E Street at times in Road Diary, or John Landau is explaining the process of the rehearsals. And then after everyone's chatted a bit, you have Bruce, and he kind of whispers in your ear and says, it's really this, this, and this for me. That's the
Yeah,
voiceover. So
that's great.
You mentioned one of my favorite parts of the documentary were these kind of slowed down moments looking at the fans watching Bruce. I absolutely love those. I was wondering what draws you to focus on a specific fan in the audience because of course there's so many, and also you also interview several fans as well, and I'm also curious about that process.
what draws me to go to the place of filming fans and examining their expression is the belief that I have as a filmmaker that something is transforming in those moments of the person's place in the world or their understanding of the music. There's there's many experiences I've had before I started working with Bruce and the band where I would see someone next to me and we would just glance and smile. And it was that thing. What's that thing? It's
Mm.
you're having this amazing night of music, but also you're getting a sense of yourself and your place in the world. This tour and this film gave me an opportunity, Road Diary, was to really explore how this set list and the arc of the show gave you that space to look at your life. You could look at it as a series of songs and figure out the songs you're missing or that you wanted him to play, or you can go through the process of standing there and taking it in. And when I saw those crowds in America take it in the first time, the first leg of the tour, I knew that this was a thing that I needed to chase. I needed to go to the space of beyond cliche rock and roll shots of just people looking at camera and being conscious that they're being filmed. I wanted to find people who were not thinking about me at all. I was not interrupting the process. I was stepping into the dream space of Bruce and the band hitting a person's soul. And I felt it. We've all felt it. But as a filmmaker, it's a really hard thing to capture. And slowing it down was one of the reasons that I ended up going that way, because slowing it down, you have a slight exaggeration of expression and you could just take it in. The magical thing about the band too is in Europe, they're playing in daylight. Light is a powerful source of symbolic redemption and themes that Bruce is exploring. So someone might be bathed in red, then you cross-cut them in a light of white light. All these are conscious and unconscious symbols that I'm playing with that bring forward the theme of Bruce and the band, and also the pure joy. I mean, it's not a serious, always serious adventure when you're trying to capture the fans' expression. There's one interview I did with the Italian fans, and she just has this beautiful moment where she just says, there's one moment where Bruce and the band say, you know, do you want to go home? The way she describes it, it comes across as her connection to the pure joy of the night. And I picked people who didn't see Bruce as a celebrity, but who had Bruce in their life in a way that was a strong influence, and that the music was a communication and a conversation that they've been having for a long time, whether it's passed down from their father, like I believe it's Hannah from the UK. Mm-hmm. There's just, I looked for many faces and voices that can convey the community in a way that I thought I was lucky enough to witness it, because it's not Uber fans who are chasing, you know, the celebrity of it. They're there for the experience. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. Like so many people, I've described watching Bruce and the concert experience as something very spiritual, and I just felt the style and the way that you filmed it really communicated that so well.
Well, I think I had these great conversations with John and Bruce, and sometimes we would talk about some of the cliches of the rock and roll film, like the trucks being loaded in, or talking about every city in a particular way, and grosses and details. That stuff's always available in the world. But what the challenge was, and I'm happy to hear you say that you found it to be spiritual and emotional, because those are the challenges I was chasing. And when I watched the film in Toronto, I realized this has been the most emotional of a response. This is the biggest film I've worked on with Bruce in the 24 years. I think the audience connected so deeply to it, and they clapped in a way that I knew that they were feeling the live show. Now, if you've seen Bruce shows, you know what I mean by that. There's a polite audience clap, and then there's being in it, and they were in it. Right. And I love the idea of everyone afterwards, how they talked to me, and they just said it was an emotional journey. I don't take full responsibility of that, because the words and the music of Bruce is driving it. But I did try to absorb that energy. I did try to really stay close to his emotional arc. Like, the film has funny moments, it has sad moments, and reflective moments. Those are all things that I grasped from him.
So, if I recall correctly, while this isn't the first time that a Springsteen tour's rehearsal period's been captured on film or video, it's never been done before so extensively and on this kind of scale with, you know, like a full multi-camera crew, soundboard audio, all that Great stuff. But what kinds of challenges, if any, did filming the rehearsals present for you and your team?
Well, the E Street Band has never been captured this way. Like Road Diary was not. There's some tours that were rehearsals and things like that. They were much more fine-tuned, like the River Barry Rebo footage, where it's a camera on a tripod and limited documentary filming. They're already in a space of being much more polished. The challenges that I found were being able to really pare it down to just one or two cameras and getting as much as I could. What that means is that I'm watching and taking in and talking to a cameraman and saying, go to Steve now, because I know that Bruce is playing something and I'm editing in the moment. I want Steve's reaction. And then as he's filming Steve, I'm looking around and seeing that John is taking in something and I'm filming John. And then I'm quickly back to Bruce who's talking with a new idea. What it is being a fly on the wall, not being noticed, being forgotten about. That's what happened with Road Diary. It's 24 years of me filming. There's Thom. How you doing, Thom? I've got a camera here. They forget about it. They do their job. Then you end up with this fly on the wall moment of the E Street Band shaking off the dust, playing She's the One,
Yeah.
and finding the groove again. Those are the moments that I got in Road Diary, and those are the moments I was chasing, which is nothing directed, nothing rehearsed, nothing reenacted. I was a guest, and I stayed in the background, and I tried to get as much as I could. And that's always my motive in approaching these verite moments, doc moments.
Well, you certainly earned their trust. It's obvious. I mean, the stuff we get to see of them, like you said, shaking off the dust and really, getting down to it, noticing problems, the whole sequence with Stevie, doing the extra rehearsals with the band, just incredible stuff.
Well,
So
thank
yeah,
you.
great.
Yeah, that all that behind the scenes footage was so exciting to see. And I actually also have a question about the selecting the archival footage. Do you already know what you're looking for, or is it something that you kind of discover along the way?
I keep open to what the film is telling me. Like the film talks to you in the edit room. We have this moment where we're talking about Bruce, the band leader. Now, what do you show during that moment? Do you show a contemporary clip? Well, maybe not. Let's go and try to show young Bruce. I'm in the vault and I'm looking at Spirit in the Night. It's Davy Sanchez and they're in a small club in 73.
Mm-hmm.
It's playing it more R&B, Van Morrison stuff. It's a different song. Oh, let's work with that because that song evolves. That song
Mm-hmm.
is showing the band leader. Let's cut to different shots and sections of Spirit in the Night to show Bruce's evolution and E Street's evolution in one song. That idea just came about looking at Spirit in the Night in the vault and going, 78, it's got this energy. Oh, it's so great. And then here, bringing it to a contemporary moment. It's the vault is a tool to go to remind you of the past, its memory, its history, and also it drives a certain spirit of reflection that this album, especially in this tour, had. So if you're going to show Danny and talk about, you talk about the loss of Danny, let's bring Danny back into the fold where you hear the rhythm of his voice, you see the man, you see Clarence. So the vault serves as a tool for me to it's a time machine. It both sends me off onto new explorations, but also it educates. There's a group and there's fans that just don't know the early E Street bands, so that it might be their first time seeing different formations of E Street.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure it's such a treat for those, who did get to experience, but speaking as someone, I was not around or, even
Sure.
able to be around, it's just amazing to see. And as you said, it fits along with these themes of, reflection and just the evolution that the E Street Band has made. So I really, really enjoyed that footage.
Well, I love hearing that. Road Diary was my favorite, deep dive into the vault. I found
Mhm.
things that, I thought, I always think I've seen everything, and then I stumble on just newfound shots of Bruce walking around the stadium and on the river tour that just demonstrate an idea that someone talked about in the interview. You always want to just go right back to the vault and see
Yeah,
what they're doing.
you hear so often about how fastidious he was with everything, and just working so hard to make that sound was right. So I've heard that before, but it was amazing to see it in action, and just see all the care and the that he poured into making his live shows the best they could be.
Road Diary gives you this chance to see Bruce the band leader, and that's another reason I filmed him in
Mhm.
slow motion. Like Bruce the band leader is worried about sound. Bruce the band leader is communicating to the band with a physicality. So I wanted
Yeah.
to have this moment of maybe you saw 15 shows and you've just enjoyed E Street, but let's just unpack it. Let's look at what he's doing in this moment. When he's stopping the band with his body this way, those
Mhm.
those are ways that he's controlling this big sonic space, the E
Mhm.
Street Band. But then also it comes from a history. What's the history? His love of R&B, his love of Sam and Dave, his love of music. So in some ways, the vault, archive, they all are these tools to kind of take you on a journey of what's going on now, but also kind of looking in the past and filling in those details.
So this time around, once again, you had Ron Aniello scoring the film. Ron previously worked with you and Bruce on the score for Bruce Springsteen's Letter to You, and I noticed that he also scored your four-part 2023 film with Warren Moverman, Willie Nelson and Family. Do you want to talk a bit about what Ron's scoring brought to Road Diary?
I mean, what a fabulous question. I can't tell you how it feels to get score sent to you after you've lived with the film without it. Um, and then Ron sends you score that he's just created, and all of a sudden you don't recognize the film. It's taken
Hmm.
it to a whole other emotional sonic place. Ron Aniello is a genius and just a great friend, but just a collaborative brother in this filmmaking process. He's essential to being part of of helping tell these stories with me. And there's stories that were reflecting Bruce's ideas. And Ron is so deeply in sync with Bruce and John and the narratives of those albums like Letter to You and all the albums he's worked on with Bruce, that sonically he just gets it instantly. There's a moment in the film where I had taken John Landau's voice saying, Bruce knows what is going on. He knows what he wants. He's a man who's confident and he's at a place that he is just chasing the things that he wants. I'm paraphrasing. And then
Right.
John says he's the maestro. I have this moment, and it's a beautiful moment of John in the interview, and I know right away this has got to be in the movie. Then I put images to it, and it's Bruce walking up the stairs, and it's really nice. It's beautiful. It's a great moment. Ron sees it with Bruce. The two of them are working in the studio. I get a text from Bruce sending you something. He sends me this score that he and Ron worked on. And all of a sudden, the film has just gone to a whole other place. That shot of walking up the stairs is carrying the weight and the pain of the world shutting down, now opening up to a live concert. That score is carrying the passion that Bruce has as a performer. That score is enhancing every visual aspect of the story, but also working completely in sync with the emotion of John Landau's voice. The illusion of directing is that you're doing it all. But I come from a space of having immense gratitude that I've got a a whole team of people contributing to the smallest moments, and that's one of the smaller moments where they make such a high impact of emotion with John's words, with Ron's score, with the shot of Bruce in slow motion. All these things are ingredients that I put together as an editor and as a director, and especially Ron, his sonic element to the filmmaking process is bringing the films to a whole other place. But that moment, particularly, Ron Aniello's genius shines because it is incredibly hard, if you can think about this. This guy is creating score next to the E Street Band. You don't want the film to stop. You don't want people to say, I just want to hear the band. I want to hear the songs. What's beautiful about Ron is that he understands the texture and rhythm and musicality of Bruce's voice to such a degree that he creates score that goes hand in hand. I think the guy is a genius. I want him on every one of my movies. I can't tell you what he's worked with me on the Willie Nelson film, and another amazing task of competing with that sound. But he's able to do it. He's a storyteller. He understands passion, and he understands emotion, and also he understands the rhythm of film editing and voices. And he just comes in and he hits your heart in such a powerful way. So I love Ron. I don't know if that comes across.
And that sequence you described with John's quote, that was the first time that many of us got to see any of Road Diary. That was the clip that I think Hollywood Reporter had as kind of an exclusive clip from the film. And man, I'll tell you, the first time I saw that with Bruce coming up the steps, and I was at the Tampa show, and just the whole emotional wallop of it is just awesome.
Well, John Landau really is an amazing source in this film. For the interview that he gave me was so important, and the maestro dialogue just came sitting across from him. Just John being John observing those details for 50 years. So he's also able to step into a place of describing a lot of what he sees the band's or Bruce's collaboration to be at times. And he's a really important voice in my life as a filmmaker, and I consider him a great friend. And Road Diary is just such a shining moment for him, because he really gave me some magical moments.
Yes, definitely. We got to start wrapping up, Carolyn. So I don't know if you have like maybe one more, and I have one quick one, and then
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah.
You guys
Okay.
friends, go ahead.
Okay. You've kind of touched on this before, but it just might be nice to, I guess, distill it in an answer. So Bruce, he's gone through this significant period of self-reflection lately, with Springsteen on Broadway, his autobiography, Letter to You, and even the Western Stars documentary. So I was wondering how you feel Road Diary fits into this kind of narrative arc of looking back and defining his artistic legacy.
I think, much like all the other projects I've had with Bruce, nothing's discussed. This happened organically, that these films have a feeling of overlapping and interlinking themes and ideas and emotions, and they're filmed very differently, and the music is very different, but they are a conversation. And it's a conversation Bruce is having with his band that I stem back really from the start of filming Springsteen on Broadway. That was the start of this language of him sitting across from you and really taking in a sense of his own history, but also reminding you of your own. And so the films definitely overlap in this way of conversation. And I don't think I don't have a single reference of it being a grand plan, but in the magic of working with Bruce and John, if I've learned over the years, if you stay in pocket, if you stay in sync with Bruce, this sort of thing will happen. And what I mean by this sort of thing is that the work will they'll complement each other, and ideas will keep growing. If you look at the ideas that were presented in Letter to You, and then the world that we had with Shutdown, Road Diary is another example of some of those ideas, but taking it to a whole other place because time has marched on, because we've all lost people. We've aged, and we also still have that burning desire to celebrate. Road Diary has elements of all the other films and hints of the other conversations. It's for me, I just hope it's a continuation of the conversation.
Okay, and we're going to end on a little fun note, I hope.
Okay.
Without getting into too much spoiler-like detail for folks who haven't yet seen the film, Thom, did it surprise you as much as it did me for Bruce to be that into Jim Morrison and the Doors? That was a surprise to me.
Yeah, no, I know for a fact that Bruce saw the Doors in Asbury Park, and
Mhm.
I know that
Carolyn's father was at that show, by the way.
oh, really?
Yeah, my dad was there.
I've done some research. There's bootleg recordings of it. So,
Oh, cool.
you know, the thing with Bruce, and I remember John saying this to me, and I love this moment because we both looked at each other. There's a great moment where he references Jim Morrison in the doc, and I didn't have a clue. John didn't have a clue. And
I think back in his critic days, John didn't write too fondly of the Doors either, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I just know that we both had this moment of reflection of like, this is perfect. And of course, this is something I've gone through before, where Bruce is watching, and he's much like the documentary shows. He's letting everyone do their thing, and then he comes in and he goes, "This." And you go, "Oh God, where did that come from?" And there's a couple of moments in Road Diary where he did that, but especially with the one Morrison reference that I hope you guys will, I hope everyone will enjoy and be moved by.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was
But
great.
thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Thom, for
Okay.
everything.
Thank you.
And thank you for this time. And everybody go see Road Diary. And we've got our fingers crossed that there will be more big screen showings of it because you got to play this loud
I
on the
know.
biggest screen you can find.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree. I agree. Thank you,
All
guys.
right. Take care. Thanks
Thank
again.
you so much.